Or, oh, how that woman could cook her food with like grand opera sound. Why, you could give her dining room table one look, right away you gain 7 pounds. A sick man could eat himself well pretty quick. And when he got well, he ate himself sick. And her pies, without question, would pure in deception. Ah, God, how that woman could cook.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Gina's Good Looking Cooking. I'm happy you're in my kitchen with me today. However, the hard part's done, and we're not going to be spending a lot of time in the kitchen because this is a recipe that cooks itself hands off. We're making apple butter. I love to give out homemade treats during the holiday season. I think this is going to be one, so I'm making a large batch. Everything that you'll need to make this is going to be for the volume that I'm making. It scales down really easily, and we'll talk about that. But I've got 1 apple left to peel. I'm going to finish that up, and here's everything that you'll need to make this delicious overnight apple butter. 15 pounds of peeled, cored, and coarsely chopped apples, 2½ cups white sugar, 2½ cups brown sugar, 3/4 teaspoon salt, 2 tablespoons of vanilla, 3/4 cup lemon juice, 1 cup apple juice or cider, and 3 tablespoons cinnamon. Everyone knows how much I hate to peel. I don't peel potatoes. I don't peel anything if I don't have to. However, this is one of the things that it's worth taking that little bit of time. Again, because I'm doing such a large volume, it seems like I've been standing here peeling and chopping for days. But once we get all this done and stirred up, that's all there is to it. We set it and forget it. Stir it every now and then, and we're gonna have delicious, delicious, rich apple butter. So the last apple is done. Again, I'm doing a large recipe, so I'm doing this in my slow cooker roaster oven. This is, again, one of those things that if you don't have it, you should. You may not know you need it, but we all have at least one time a year where we wish for another oven or something bigger, and this is your answer. This will slow cook, bake, roast. You can do breads, cakes, pies. We're going to do this apple butter in it. And again, I'm doing a large batch. I wound up buying 20 pounds of apples. That peeled and chopped wound up being about 15 pounds of prepared fruit. So if you wanted to do this in a crock pot, say, just a small batch, I would do 5 pounds of apples. I don't like a lot of sugar. I know this looks like a lot of sugar, but this is 15 pounds of fruit. I would start out making it with about 1/2 to 3/4 cup of sugar to 5 pounds of fruit. You always can taste it and determine if it needs some adjusting, just like we do with anything else that we're cooking. So I've got my 15 pounds of fruit here. I'm doing a mixture of brown and white sugar. I find that the brown sugar just gives it a really rich, caramely, deep flavor. I like that. So just dump everything in now. I've got what again looks to be a large amount of cinnamon, but it's a large amount of fruit. If you were doing this in a small 5 pound batch in a crock pot, I'd say 1/2 to a full tablespoon of cinnamon, depending on your taste. And anything sweet needs a little bit of salt. For a 5-pound batch, it would just be a pinch. You know, not a lot. It just helps to balance out the sweetness. And again, I bought a ton of apples. Well, not a ton, but I bought 20 pounds of apples. I caught a really good deal. And I got a mix of nice tart crisp apples and some really soft sweet apples. It's just whatever you like at the time. That was the vanilla. We want to put our lemon juice in, and again about 1/4 of a cup for a 5-pound batch. A lot more for 15. And then apple juice. We just want to give it a little bit of liquid to start cooking in. You could use water. You could use a delicious apple cider, whatever you have and you like. And it's just that simple. We're going to give this a stir and get things coated well. The apples are going to cook down low and slow. And now fruit butters, it's one of those things that you can't really overcook it. You can burn it, but you can't overcook it. And the longer and the slower that this cooks, the richer and more concentrated the flavors will become. That's why, you know, you can put this in the crock pot at night and go to bed. No concerns. Leave it cook. When I do a crock pot batch, I probably let it cook all night long and half of the second day. Stirring it occasionally throughout just to make sure we're not getting anything sticking. You know, like I said, you can't overcook it. You can always stop it, put the lid on it, pop it in the fridge, bring it back out and cook it more. You just have to make sure you're not burning it because the sugar will burn, but you truly can't overcook this. Again, it's going to be a long, slow process, but for the most part, it's hands off. We've got everything mixed in here now. I'm going to get it in the cooker. Then I've got some errands to run. Mike and I have some things to do, and this is just going to cook away. Tomorrow, it'll be ready. I'll show you how to test it to make sure that it has evaporated out enough of the liquids. Then we'll can it, label it, and have it ready to go in Christmas yummy gift boxes. I'll see you tomorrow. Well, we're back in the kitchen. The apples are cooking away low and slow over here. Nothing for me to do, but there's still a lot of time in my day. So I decided I would start another dish. This is another multi-day recipe, but it requires very little effort once you get the initial slicing done. We're going to make some orange marmalade now, and here's everything you'll need to make marmalade. 8 large navel oranges, 2 lemons, 8 cups of sugar, 12 cups water, pinch of salt. All right, I've been slicing away. This is something you want to make sure you have a really sharp knife for. If you have a mandolin, you can use that to get very, very thin slices. I don't have one. I secretly want one, but I'm kind of scared of it. I'm comfortable with a knife, so that's what I do. So I've just taken my oranges and I'm cut each end off and slice them in half so that I get a good flat surface on my board. And the same with a lemon. And you just want to slice this as thin as you possibly can. Again, if your knife isn't sharp, don't even try it. As you can see, we're getting paper thin slices. And You just can't do that without a good sharp blade. So I'm going to slice up this last orange and the last lemon. Once I get it sliced, I'll cut it in quarters, and then we'll move on to the next step. And there's nothing like cutting up a pile of citrus to remind you of every little paper cut or jagged cuticle you might have, so just be prepared for that. This is such a delicious treat. This will be the last of my canning for the holiday food gifts that I like to share. We've already done the blueberry lime jam. The apples are back here cooking away. I peeked at them a few minutes ago. And this is, again, a very slow cooking process, so there's nothing much to report there, not much change at all. So just going to cut these in quarters now, get the lemons sliced up. We're going to add the sugar to this and add the water. We'll bring it up to a boil and allow it to boil rapidly and make sure that we get all that sugar dissolved in it. Then we turn the burner off, put the lid on the pan, and just leave it. Let it sit overnight. Tomorrow when we come in, we'll turn the heat back up, cook it to its desired temperature, which is about 220 degrees. We're evaporating off all the water, and the sugar is cooking down with all these juices and making a delicious syrup. Now with the lemons, make sure you get the pits out. Of course, navel oranges have no pits, but we don't get that lucky with lemons. So just make sure you don't let any of those slip past. And both of these dishes that we're making today, the apple butter and the orange marmalade, can be put in containers with nice airtight lids and stored in the refrigerator. Again, because I'm going to be giving these in gift baskets, shipping off a care package to my father-in-law, I want these to be canned, so we're going to be doing the same thing with this as we did with our blueberry lime jam, and fill our sterilized heated jars, put it in a water bath for 10 minutes to ensure it's sealed and any bacteria have been killed, and then it's pantry safe, ready to give. These are wonderful things to have tucked away on a shelf. I know when Jennifer was in school, there was always a need for a teacher's gift. You know, get invited somewhere and you want to take a hostess gift. There's nothing nicer than giving someone something handmade from your kitchen. It just shows that you took the time. It's just nice to have. You don't have to make large batches. I don't do large batches of most things. This I do because it is part of my gifts, but you could do this with 4 oranges and 1 lemon and make, 3 pints. That's plenty. It's not necessary to make, great huge amounts. So now we've got all this sliced. I'm just going to add this sugar. This initial step, the boiling down of it, is going to help start to soften the rinds. Remember, we did not peel this fruit, thank goodness, because I hate to peel. And it's going to kind of candy it. And then letting it soak is going to just continue to soften. The natural pectins that are in the fruit, in the rinds, will be released. So again, we don't need added pectin anything like that. I like cooking things without adding all the extra artificial ingredients. You know, you can buy natural fruit pectins, but still there's pectin in the fruit, and as long as you cook it to the appropriate temperature, you allow the majority of the water in it to evaporate, you're going to get a product that's going to gel for you just fine without any extra added ingredients. So this is going to go on the stove now. I'm going to add my water to it, bring it up to a boil, stirring it pretty regularly. It's going to take a good 30 to 40 minutes. But then we put the lid on it, turn it off, just let it sit all night long. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. And we'll pick it up and finish tomorrow along with our apple butter. So again, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, welcome to a new day in my kitchen. Everything smells so good. The cinnamon apples have been cooking behind me, low and slow all night long. After my coffee this morning, I got the oranges back on the burner. I brought it up to a boil, and then I reduced it down to a simmer and just let it cook down slowly. It's been cooking for a couple of hours. I wanted to reduce it so the syrup would be nice and thick. The orange rind is just translucent now. The syrup has become a beautiful golden color. This is ready to go in the jars. I've already sterilized them and taken them out. They're hot and ready. I've brought this up to 220 degrees. So now we're ready to ladle it into the jars and get it in the water bath. It smells so good. I poured a small amount into a saucer earlier and tasted it. I thought it needed a touch of something still, so I'm going to add, just for this whole batch, just a tablespoon of vanilla. That's going to kind of finish it off. And this is a marmalade, so it's not going to gel and be super thick like a jelly. It's going to have this really thick, rich syrup. This stuff is wonderful. There's so many different things you can do with it. You can, of course, have it on toast or biscuits. It's great. You can stir a spoonful into your oatmeal or yogurt to add an extra little something. Stir some into your next barbecue sauce. Baste some grilled chicken with it right at the end. It's more than just a breakfast condiment for sure. I've had my jar lids over here heating up now to ensure I get a good seal. A wet paper towel. Just wipe the lid rim really well. Make sure it's good and clean. Pop on the lid. Loosely twist on the ring. And we'll move on to the next one. Once we get this done in the water bath, we'll go ahead and finish up the apple butter. So I'll see you back shortly to take care of these easy overnight, hands-free treats that are going to go into my Christmas food gifts. Well, the apple butter is finally ready. It's been cooking away low and slow since midday yesterday. We've actually cooked over 24 hours. What I did this morning when I got up, I checked on it, gave it a good stir. The apples were starting to break up and fall apart. I took my potato masher and I went through and I broke the chunks up even more. Put the lid back on it and let it continue to cook. About 2 hours ago, I took the lid off. The point of this slow cooking is to allow the water to eventually evaporate out. And then we're left with this wonderful condensed flavor, this absolutely delicious fruit butter. So I took the lid off and I've just been letting it cook away. I used my immersion blender, stick blender, to finish smoothing it out. There's still some chunks. I do like to have it a little chunkier than smooth. Everybody has one of these in their pantry and never uses it. Pull it out for things like this. You'll never serve a lumpy sauce or gravy if you use this. It's just another one of those really handy tools to have. Even if you don't use it on a regular basis, you'll find that when you do use it, you're really glad you have it. So I'm just going to give this another little quick mix with the immersion blender to make sure we've got a really thick, smooth butter. We'll start ladling it in our jars and get it canned up. I hope that you can see how thick and golden brown this has become, and that's just apple puree. Again, we've evaporated all the water out of this and we've condensed those flavors. The little bit of cinnamon you can really smell. It's going to be another wonderful treat to add to my holiday food gifts. So now it's time to show you how you test it. Again, like we talked about yesterday, this is something that you can't overcook, but you can burn it, especially when it gets to this stage and it starts to get really thick and the majority of the water has evaporated out. The last couple of hours I have hung pretty close to it and stirred it fairly regularly while the lid was off, just to make sure I didn't have any sticking or scorching. And the way to test this, it's not a temperature thing like the orange marmalade was earlier, the 220 degree point. This is a visual, and it's not hard, it's not complicated at all. Put a little dot of it on a saucer. And what you're looking for is to see if a ring of water forms around this blob of apple butter. If it has, it still needs to cook longer. There's too much water still in it, and it's not going to set up to be that nice thick spread that we all know and love. I hope you can see there's no water running off of this. It's holding its shape well. We're ready to get this in jars. So it's just that simple. It's so easy to do. Get these things out of my way. I've got my jars prepared. My funnel is here. Let me slide this up just a little bit, and we are ready to go. Now remember, this was 15 pounds of peeled and cored, coarsely diced apples. In this 24-hour cooking process, it has reduced down. That's a little much in the jar. I'm going to have to get a spoon and get some of that out. You never want to overfill your jars. You have to leave that little bit of headspace to take into account the processing. So just take a little bit out. It's okay. Again, the wet paper towel just to clean the rim well. We've got our lids here that have been in the hot water. Pop that on, put a ring on it, and there you go. A gorgeous half pint of apple butter ready to go in the water bath. I'm going to continue to fill these jars, get them in the water bath. Again, a 10-minute processing time is all we need. So we'll be back. We'll look at the fruits of our labor, our weekend filled with cooking around the clock with very little hands-on, and a large part of my holiday gifts are complete already. So we'll see you back a little later on. Okay, the weekend's coming to an end. The fruits of my labor are here in front of us. 8 oranges and 2 lemons gave me 14 half pints of orange marmalade. 15 pounds of peeled, cored, and chopped apples gave me 21 half pints of apple butter. This is going to be holiday gifts. It's going to stock my pantry. Who doesn't love pork chops and applesauce? I'll have this delicious orange marmalade to baste grilled chicken with, not to mention topping toast and stirring in a bowl of oatmeal or in my yogurt. The possibilities are endless. You can say you worked all weekend on it, when really we put in just a little bit of time yesterday, a little time today finishing up. The cooking was hands off. Mike and I ran errands, we visited with friends, the stuff took care of itself. So I slaved all weekend to produce this, is my story. I hope you guys keep my secret. I'll see you next time on another episode of Gina's Good Looking Cooking.
Oh, how that woman could cook her food with like grand opera sound. Why, you could give her dining room table one look, right away you gain 7 pounds. A sick man could eat himself well pretty quick, and when he got well, he ate himself sick, and her pies without question. Put pure in deception. Ah, God, how that woman could cook.